My name is Dave Wilhelm. I am a professor at Wake Technical Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina. I teach business, management, and entrepreneurship courses to both seated and online classes. This video is one in a series to try to ensure that my online students get all the same information that my seated students are getting, especially with regard to being able to do some of the homework assignments. This topic is on pricing, specifically price escalation, how it varies from the manufacturer to the consumer. We'll very briefly mention the marketing mix, strategies and tactics, and pricing, ceiling, and floor, and then we'll get into what price escalation is, including a couple examples, and then I'll have a couple exercises for you, and finally a couple closing comments on how classes at Wake Tech are and could be priced. Here's the marketing mix of the 4 P's: product, price, promotion, distribution, and as you should have figured out by now, we're going to focus on price. What's a strategy and what's a tactic? A strategy is your high-level plan. Tactic is how you carry it out. This is my version. I'm not sure it's accurate, but we're going to be focused on cost-based pricing and demand or market-based pricing. At least 3 ways to price yourself at a high level. One is look at what the competition's doing. So that's looking externally from your organization. What are other people doing? What can we do? Cost-based pricing is an internally based pricing strategy. In other words, what does it cost us and how much do we want to make, and eventually that finds its way to the consumer. Demand or market-based pricing starts with the consumer and works back to the manufacturing cost. The most you can charge for a product is not necessarily your competitors' prices. If you can do a better job at either the product or the promotion or the distribution or the quality or something, you can charge more. But you do have to be aware of the competitor's pricing. The floor, the least you can charge, is probably your cost of production or acquisition. Okay, this is where the accountants come in. They can determine that. If it's slightly more complicated than one product, one employee, it's not that easy. And our specific topic is cost escalation, how everybody in the distribution channel adds a little bit of price to pay them for their trouble. Here is my cost escalation diagram. Notice it's escalation, not inflation. Inflation is that time-based, long-term, hopefully gentle rise in prices as time goes by. Cost escalation specifically describes the incremental cost each individual in the distribution channel adds. We start with cost of the manufacturer. The manufacturer, for their trouble, they deserve to charge a little bit more to the wholesaler than their cost of labor and parts. So PMW is my terminology for the price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler. The wholesaler, they would like a little money for their trouble, and after they add their markup, we get PWR, price from the wholesaler to the retailer. The retailer has their markup. See how this is going? and the retailer charges PRC to the consumer, price from the retailer to the consumer. So that's about all the terminology. Each of those elements, manufacturer, wholesaler, and retailer, is going to have a little profit. Cost-based pricing starts with the manufacturing cost and ends with the consumer cost. Demand-based pricing starts with what the consumers are willing to pay and works back to the manufacturing cost. Demand-based pricing is also called market-based, customer-based, consumer-based. It's what those folks at the end of the distribution channel are willing to pay. The demand-based pricing information we're going to talk about. Also, the methods are applicable to the competition-based pricing, because both of those are starting externally, what you think you can get out of the customers. Cost-based pricing is pretty easy. You can look at what it takes to make it, add the markup for the manufacturer, the wholesaler, and the retailer, and you've got the consumer price. Now, the question, of course, is, will the consumer buy enough at that price to make a profit for you, for everybody? The other way of doing it is demand-based costing, whether it's what the consumer will pay or what your competitors are charging, and you're basing your cost a little bit more or a little bit less than theirs. And then working back to see what the manufacturing cost is going to have to be. Whoops. So somebody does some market research on what the consumers are willing to pay. They work backwards along this distribution channel to see what the cost is going to have to be. And if the calculated cost is more than it actually is going to cost to make it, you're in good shape. If, however, the cost ceiling to sell a lot to the consumers is lower than what you can make it for, then you've got a problem. And the good news is that you've got that problem before you've made a lot and promoted it and found out you can't make a profit. It can take a lot of effort, so we got to make it for less than this, say the sales and marketing people. The manufacturers say it costs that much. Well, you can scrap the whole thing, or you can start working at deleting features so it costs less to make, adding features so you can get more out of the marketplace. But it's a long-term negotiation with the product management people, the hardware people, the design people, the sales people. Everybody's got together so they can meet that price point to sell it. Do you always have to do demand-based pricing? No. For one thing, well, if you've been in this industry for years and years, you should have a pretty good idea what your customers are willing to pay. But if it's a brand new product, totally new to the market, maybe a little market research on your potential consumers is a good idea. Here is an example of cost-based pricing escalation. So we're starting with the manufacturing cost, and in this example, it's going to cost us $30 to make it. The manufacturer would like a 30% return. That is, they'd like to charge 30% more than the sum of their parts and labor. From that, we can calculate the P&W price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler. Wholesaler wants a 25% return, and the retailer wants a 40% return, and finally the consumer is going to pay quite a bit more than that $30 just because of all the services provided by the distribution channel. From the information we have, we want to calculate the price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler, from the wholesaler to the retailer, and finally from the retailer to the consumer. We start on the left-hand side, not that hard. Price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler is 1.3 times $30 or $39. And what we did was we took the manufacturer's cost times 1 plus the return, and that's $30. Or if you want to do it a little more step by step, it can be equal to $30 plus 0.3 times 30, that is that 30% return, or 30 plus 9 equals $39. Next step, price from the wholesaler to the retailer, done very similarly, only in this case it's 1.25 times $39, or $48.75. Retailer adds their 40% return, and by the time we get to the price from the retailer to consumer, it's $68.25. And that was 1.4 times $48.75. Demand-based pricing starts at the consumer, and we de-escalate it going down to what the manufacturing cost is going to have to be. So in this case, we've got different returns that each of the elements wants. Manufacturer 30, wholesaler 10, retailer 60, and all that has to result in a price to the consumer that's $125. What we're looking for are the cost, price from manufacturer to wholesaler, and price from wholesaler to retailer, since we know what the consumer's willing to pay. The price from the wholesaler to the retailer, the math's a little trickier here. The price from wholesaler to retailer is equal to the price from the retailer to the consumer divided by 1 plus the retailer's rate of return. In this case, 60%. So the price from the wholesaler to the retailer is $125 divided by 1.6, or $78.13. Let's check this, just to be sure. So if we were working the other way, the price from the retailer to the consumer is the price from the wholesaler to the retailer times the markup, $78.13 times 1.6. Sure enough, it really does equal $125. So that's how it does work. To find a price in that direction, you divide the price on this side divided by 1 plus the rate of return, and that will give you the price on the other side. Continuing, the price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler is the price from the wholesaler to the retailer, $70.13 divided by 1.1, or $71.02. The cost point that the manufacturer is going to have to meet is their price to the wholesaler divided by 1 plus their desired rate of return, 1.30. So they have to be able to make it for $54.63 and able to meet the consumer's price point of $125. Here is an exercise for you. This one is cost-based pricing escalation, where the cost is $14. The manufacturer would like a 25% return, the wholesaler a 20% return, and the retailer would like a 50% return. So starting with the manufacturer's cost, go ahead and calculate the price from the retailer to the consumer. If you wish, stop the video and try the problem yourself. If you don't wish, I'm going to go ahead and show you the solution now. There's our question marks again. And since this is cost-based pricing, we're starting from the left and working over to the right. The price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler is 1 plus the manufacturer's return of 1.25 times the cost of $14 comes out to $17.50. The price from the wholesaler to the retailer is 1 plus the wholesaler's return times their cost, 1.2 times $17.50, or $21. I love it when the math comes out nice and even. To determine the price from the retailer to the consumer, 1 plus the retailer's rate of return times their cost, or 1.5 times $21, and that gives us $31.50. You knew this was coming. Here's an exercise for demand-based pricing, and we start with the price to the consumer of $75. Retailer, 15% return, wholesaler 20, manufacturer 25. That happens to be the same markups on the cost-based pricing exercise, if you care. We want to determine the price from the wholesaler to the retailer, from the manufacturer to the wholesaler, and what cost point the manufacturer is going to have to meet. Once again, if you'd like to work the problem on your own, pause the video and work the problem and then restart it when you're ready. Otherwise, just sit back, relax, and I'll show you the solution. We're starting from this side. The price the retailer has to get it for is $75, their price divided by 1 plus their markup. So they need to get it for $50 to be able to sell it for $75. The price from the manufacturer to the wholesaler, divide the price from the wholesaler to the retailer by 1 plus the wholesaler's rate of return, or $50 divided by 1.2, and that comes out to $41.67. Finally, the manufacturer uses their price to the wholesaler divided by 1 plus their rate of return, $41.67 divided by 1.25. They have to be able to make this product for $33.33, so that the consumer has to pay no more than $75 for it. Weight tech classes. Right now, Weight Tech charges the same for a seated class as for an online class. If Weight Tech charged based on cost, the seated classes would cost more than the online classes. We have to have buildings, chairs, display screens. So there is more cost in offering a seated class rather than an online class. If we priced our classes by demand, online classes would probably cost more. And the reason I say this is if you look at enrollment each semester, the online classes, after about 3 or 4 days, are typically full. One of those hockey stick distributions. The seated classes generally slowly fill up and don't get full until close to the end, close to the start of the semester. So that's one small application of cost-based versus demand-based pricing. I'm Dave Wilhelm. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send me an email.